Thank you for joining us on the Look Up Mindset podcast, where real stories of resilience, transformation, and adventure come to life. I'm your host, author, and storyteller, Heidi Siefkes. Each episode, we dive into the journeys of sheroes, heroes, and badasses who faced life's toughest moments and chose to rise. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's be inspired together. Welcome to the Look Up Mindset podcast. I'm your host, author Heidi Siefkes. In today's episode, Living with Grief, but Seeing the Beauty, we welcome my friend and special guest, Mary McQuain. Welcome, Mary.
Hi, Heidi. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's nice to see you once again. We started this relationship via a Zoom, and since we've met in person, and so now doing this podcast virtually feels like really it's not virtual anymore. So
Right, it's not. Yeah.
So in this community, we let our special guests introduce themselves. It's a way for you to get to know them, as well as I've been misintroduced so many times. And as a privilege to myself, I sometimes learn something about the guests that I didn't know by their introductions. So the floor is yours, Mary.
Well, first, I want to say thanks for having me on your podcast, Heidi. I'm so happy to be here. And I love your book. So those of you that have not purchased the book, you really need to get it. It's very inspiring. My name is Mary McQuain, as Heidi said. I'm from Parkersburg, West Virginia, and I am retired from the United States Navy. And currently I live in Tucson, Arizona with my husband, our dogs, our tortoises, our turtles, our fish, and getting ready to get some other animals. I have 4 children and 7 grandchildren. And that pretty much sums up my life.
And I met Mary in the most organic way. And I tell people that the book was made almost like 6 degrees of separation. I asked my friends that I knew that had, and family members that had inspirational, true stories to share. Then the net was cast wider to friends of friends. So I had a friend from high school who lived in Tucson, and her best friend knew a inspirational speaker named PJ. PJ did his interview to do the book, and I said, PJ, by chance, do you know someone who's a real-life shero or hero? And he pointed to me to Michelle Mann. After interviewing Michelle Mann, I said, wow, you have a network of people. Do you know someone who has a real-life story that would impact hundreds, thousands of people? And she said, I actually have somebody that I know, but I'd have to ask her if she wants to share her story. And that's how we became connected. And when we met in person, you, I, and Michelle, we actually kind of called it. It was like the butterfly effect as to how this transpired, because this was all how you met Michelle was through a neighbor. So it just shows that connections are so powerful. And people ask me how I find the guests for this podcast, and this first season is going to be solely people that participated in the book. The second season will be probably a mixture of people that participated in the book, but also new people. So this is meant to be a very safe space, an organic space for real people to share their true stories of overcoming obstacles and thriving in spite of them. So now this is where the storytelling begins, and we set the stage for Mary's story, which is multifaceted, and we're going to kind of throw you into a year that was turbulent for the globe, 2020. So, Mary, could you explain what your baseline or normal was in 2020, and then what transpired on that rocky year?
Sure. So my story takes place starting in June of 2020. I was retiring from the Navy that month, and my husband and I were walking into our new normal. He lived in Ohio, and my last duty station was in California, so we were finally able to start living together again as a family. Our daughter was going to college, our youngest daughter was going to college in Columbus, Ohio, and our son was getting ready to join the Navy as I was retiring. So it it was a new normal for me. Um, we wanted to buy a house in Tucson, Arizona, and we were looking at houses and we were so excited because the prices were so low and we were really getting ready to move here. And then tragedy struck in June of 2020. Um, our youngest daughter was visiting us on June the 10th, and we had such a great visit. When I look back at it now, it's probably one of the best memories I have of her. I think God knew that I needed to be home in June to spend time with her, and it really was a beautiful day that we had. And she talked to us about wanting to leave her boyfriend, leave college, and come with us to Arizona and start fresh. And we were so excited that she was going to leave her boyfriend because we really just didn't care for the guy, but you have to kind of let your kids make their own mistakes, right? So June 13th is when the tragedy struck. Her boyfriend had killed her. Um, my husband received a telephone call from the police department stating that she was dead um, from an overdose. And I immediately thought, overdose? Is she, what in the world is going on? Overdose? And then later we found out that it was her boyfriend that had slipped her a fentanyl into her medication that she takes. So the police at that time didn't carry Narcan and they couldn't do mouth to mouth because COVID was rampant. So they couldn't even save her even if they wanted to because of all that. So uh, my husband and I decided that this was not the time to move to Tucson. And I'm glad we didn't because we had to go through probate court and all kinds of things. And it was just a rough time because my whole world stopped. I couldn't wait to retire from the Navy because all of my children have sacrificed so much time with me and my husband that I was so excited to start spending time with all of them, all of my grandchildren. And it was just in my mind, was going to be a wonderful new chapter in my life. But that new chapter didn't start out so wonderful. So we waited to move to Arizona. And then the same day that we closed on our house here in Arizona, which was March of 21, my oldest grandson passed away from COVID. So that was devastating. I didn't even want to get out of the car. I just sat in the driveway and bawled my eyes out because I just did not want to go on with life. I mean, how do you continue when you lose a child, an adult child, and then an adult grandchild? So I had been hurting since my daughter passed away. So now I knew what my oldest daughter was feeling, and there was nothing I could do to save her and help her take that pain away, which added even more pain. So that was difficult. But I pushed through, and then September of 21, my best friend passed away. So it was a lot in a short period of time for me to go through. And I was here in Arizona by myself, getting the house ready for when my husband transferred to his new job. So he wasn't here with me during the grieving part, and I wasn't with him during the grieving part. So we grieved separately. And it was tough. It was really tough. There are no words to describe it other than tough. Anyone that's ever lost somebody close to them, be it a spouse or partner, parent, knows what I'm saying. So now compound that times 3 when I didn't want to live anymore. I just wanted to just literally die. But the beautiful thing about the house is that when I stepped on the property, when I was looking, this was after Bonnie Sue passed away, but before Jordan passed away. When I got out of the car and stepped on the property for the first time to look at it, everybody kept telling me, oh, no, you don't want that house. And the pictures online were horrible. right? I really didn't even want to go in, but I thought, something was just tugging at me and tugging at me to go to it. So I went to the house, and when I stepped on the property, I immediately felt this, oh my gosh, like the relief of, I don't know what it was, just something was drawing me to that property. And I felt so at peace, and I felt like I was getting a warm hug the whole time I was walking all over the property and in the house. Now, mind you, the property was completely overgrown. It looked horrible. The inside, horrible. The pool was a mess. It had rebar sticking through it. I mean, it was just horrible. But I can see past the cosmetic stuff, and I could see what what could be made of it. Um, well, when Jordan passed away, I did not want to do that anymore. I just felt like, why? Why even bother when I'm not going to be here very long anyway? But something kept pulling at me to just go ahead and do it. So how I worked through my grief was I moved all these boulders, rocks, cut down cactus, like hundreds of cactus, cut down trees, pulled weeds, moved dead snakes, rabbits, all kinds of dead animals were everywhere all over the property. And I live on an acre. And I also painted the inside of the house, outside of the house. We had the pool redone. I decorated the complete backyard. Now, mind you, I am not artistic in any way. I can't even draw a stick figure. Like I just have no artistic ability. In the military, I was law enforcement, so I was very rigid, strict, straightforward. But something kept giving me inspiration of what to do. And now my backyard and my front yard and my house look amazing. That's not me bragging. That's some divine intervention has occurred that has allowed me to do all of these things. Basically, I'm just the conduit, but it has brought me so much joy. So that's kind of my baseline and a little bit of where I am right now.
Well, I can testify because I've seen your home and your backyard that it is a museum of your world travels from your career, a testament in the backyard to your creativity that you have now. You are an artist, even if it's a conduit of Bonnie Sue and your other family and friends. It's just absolutely a sanctuary, maybe an oasis of joy. And also, you house so many animals that, you know, connect with us in a different way that you can than you connect with humans. So definitely, I think the yard work was the best way for you to work through your grief. And maybe, I don't know if you would call it a labor of love, but maybe it was a labor of grieving the love.
Yes, that's a perfect way to wrap that up. Yes. I was grieving the love that I had nowhere to send to her specifically. And I think she and I were working together hand in hand. I just did not know it at the time until my neighbor Sandy. Yeah, until I met my neighbor and she introduced me to some beautiful women like Michelle that you were talking
Yeah.
about earlier. Mm-hmm.
Could you tell me a little bit about those, that community that helped you?
Sure. So let me just back up a tad bit and tell you how I met Sandy. So every day during that first summer, um, the temperatures were in the triple digits, and out here there's no humidity, but the sun is so blazing hot when you're standing in it. It's like it burns right through you. Um, so I remember one of the days specifically, it was 113, and I was out there in the morning at 6 o'clock, and I stayed outside all day long. Sandy had left to go somewhere, and when she came back at 4 o'clock that afternoon, I was still outside moving boulders, cutting down cactus, all that kind of stuff. And she stopped and said, uh, you haven't lived in Tucson before, have you? And I said, no. She said, you might not want to do this anymore. You might want to like go inside during the hot part of the day. And I'm thinking to myself, I wish this crazy lady would just leave me alone. I'm just trying to you know, do my thing, just leave me be, right? And it got to a daily ritual, if you will, that every time she left, she'd see me in the yard, she'd stop, she'd wave, and eventually she would say, "Hey, would you like to come to Sacred Circle with me?" And I kept saying internally, if this lady doesn't leave me alone, I'm going to have to start working somewhere else in the yard or adjust my times, right? And eventually, probably about a year after that first encounter, I said, okay, 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 I'll go, right? Just to kind of get her off my back. That was probably one of the best movements that I've ever made. And I love her dearly for not giving up on me. She could have just said, this lady, I don't know what the problem is, but yeah, she's not my kind of people. But she never gave up on me. And when she took me to that first sacred circle that Michelle hosts once a month, I don't cry in front of people. I'm that stiff, rigid, upright, and show no emotion in the military kind of person. I think that was the first time that I really got to grieve. I broke down and cried in front of all these women. And I'm thinking internally, oh my word, what is happening to me? I'm I'm losing myself. This is not me. Why am I crying like this in front of all these women? That was the first release I really had to be able to understand that grieving is okay. Because at that point, I had already lost all three. And I was really like holding it in and just beating those rocks to death every day. um, those sacred circles are a godsend. That I feel like I've gone to church in a joyous way without being having religion crammed down my throat. So she shows you and teaches you the way of the original blueprint of what God had intended for us, which is to love one another and just help one another and forgive yourself, forgive others. And it took about a year after that that I was able to finally forgive my daughter's boyfriend. I wish him well, even though he's not with us anymore. He took his own life, but I held no anger towards him anymore. And I never thought I would be able to say that. But with the love of all these women that are like-minded, um, it was a beautiful thing. It really is a beautiful thing. I think I've only missed like three of her things since I started going. Like I'm just so at peace there. And when you walk onto her property, it's very zen, very, oh, you just feel like you can release all your problems and leave them there, and Mother Earth will take them. And then I always, when we leave at the end of the circle, I feel lighter and more rejuvenated and more connected with Bonnie Sue and my grandson Jordan and my friend Robin. Um, it's just a beautiful thing. And she has this saying where she says, we are a circle, but when you leave, you are your own circle. So we are circles upon circles upon circles, and we're all connected in one way or another. Like the 6 degree thing you were talking about, right? We're all connected. We just don't realize how connected we all are. And really, there's just one goal, and that's just to find peace, happiness. And when you have sad emotions or you're angry, embrace that, work through it, deal with it. Don't shove it down inside because that's what causes so many problems. Now, mind you, had you told me this in the Navy, that I was going to be what people call woo woo or whatever, right? I would have told you, no, there's no way in the world I would believe something like that or be part of something like that. But this has changed me, like physically, spiritually, everything has that has happened. There is beauty that has come from death. And that's hard to say because you really want your loved one back. You know firsthand, Heidi, what I'm talking about. You want them back. But reality is they're not coming back. But we will see them on the other side. They will be there waiting for us when our time comes. So yeah, there is beauty in death. There is a lesson to be learned, and it makes you look at life a whole lot differently when you lose someone so close to you. You don't take anything for granted anymore. So that's kind of my story with Michelle and my beautiful neighbor Sandy.
So, what I found through researching the book is that there's a commonality in all of the stories, regardless of age, nationality, religion, language, or pivotal moment that happened to them. The one thing everyone leaned into, they said, I didn't do it alone. I definitely had community. So that's where the sacred circles and your friends and family come in. But also, they said that there was something that said, I got to keep going, whether it was I'm at rock bottom, but I can see a glimmer of hope, or I can I can take just one step. And
Yes.
I distilled that into the mantra look up. Could you explain a little bit how your story connects to that on perspective shift and community?
Yes. So when you are at rock bottom, and everybody's rock bottom could be something different, right? It could be the death of someone that you're close to. It could be losing a job, losing your family, losing your house, being home. It could be anything. Everyone's rock bottom is different. I thought when I hit rock bottom, after what I thought I had the perfect life, right? I had four beautiful children, a wonderful husband, a great career. I thought I had everything when really I didn't have everything. It took the death of my daughter and me being at the rock bottom, and then below rock bottom when I lost my grandson, and then my friend. I didn't think there was any way possible out of it. My glimmer of hope was my neighbor not giving up on me and just keep, like, she knew deep down there was something. I was hurting and I needed something. She just didn't know what that was. Um, Not that she could help me or do anything for me. That's a journey that I have to travel on my own. But she reached out her hand way below rock bottom and just kind of touched my fingertips a little bit at first. And eventually I grabbed a hold of that hand and she pulled me right up. And that's where the light started seeping into the darkness. There's still dark days that I have, but I've learned how to manage them. But the light now is so bright. It's just amazing. I have had people come to me and say that I don't even know, that say, hey, your daughter came to me. Please don't think I'm weird or crazy or anything like that, but your daughter is speaking to me and she wants me to tell you that she loves you and she's proud of you and keep going. That kind of freaked me out at first. But now I embrace it. When people come to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad she used you to talk to me. Please tell her I love her too. And then I go on about my day, right? Because it brightens my day, because I can't see anybody or talk to anybody who has passed away, but there are those out there who can. And I love it when they come to me and tell me, yeah, your daughter's so persistent. She made me come up to you. I had no choice. So that's the rock bottom and the light. And the light shines so bright, so, so bright.
I think it's a misconception that those of us that have had a loss of a loved one, that we don't want to talk about them. We enjoy talking about them. That's a memory that you can share space with them again. And
exactly.
So for those of you listening that are afraid to talk to someone about someone who's lost someone, we like hearing their name. We do. So you shared a little bit about what today looks like, but how do you occupy your time? And you have some interesting hobbies and other communities you give back to.
Yes, so I teach art class every Friday to homeschool kids.
Not artistic at all, but teaching art.
Right, but teaching art. So I look at that as a gift from above, that was given to me. This beautiful gift of being able to gift to others, teach them art. And we do all kinds of neat things. Like we've painted the side of my house with beautiful big flowers, right? We use my sea glass that I gathered in Japan and all over the world where I traveled. We make things with that. Put them in resin, and I mean, just all kinds of really neat things, which I really enjoy my art class every Friday. And my tortoises take up a lot of my time. I love spending time with my sulcata tortoises. They're such peaceful giants. They're like, I call them dinosaurs. They just move real slow and they don't judge whatever. Whatever you're not through. They don't judge you. They just come right up to you. I get to rub on their necks and just spend time with them and feed them flowers and do all kinds of neat things with them. And then I have two dogs. One is a retired military working dog. He's about to turn 10. And then I have a little girl who's missing an eye and only has 10% vision in her other eye. And she's going to be 1 next month. So I spent a lot of time with the two of them, loving on them and playing fetch with them and all kinds of things. And then I have a garden that I grow so I can feed my sulcata tortoises. Because if you've never had one, I have 3. They are very expensive. They eat a lot of food. You're supposed to feed them the size of their shell. So if you can imagine, right, sulcata tortoises can, get pretty big. That's a lot of food to feed in one day, the size of their shell. So I grow pretty much all the food that they need to eat, like peppers and cucumbers and squash and pumpkin and romaine and all that stuff. And dandelion or a salad bar. Yeah. And I eat it too because it's all natural. I don't use any chemicals. Yep. And my husband just built a sulcata tortoise haven, is what we call it, or a resort. So there's lots of room for them to roam around. They each have their own pen. So I get to spend time with each of them individually. And I volunteer with the horse community where I teach disabled children, like autistic children. I teach them how to be at peace with the horses. Horses are very powerful animals. They have a zen and an ability to relate to the person. They can hear your heartbeat from 4 feet away, and they can feel your tension and your stress. So a lot of these children are misunderstood. People don't understand what autism is unless you have, a child or someone that has a child that has autism. And there's all different spectrums of that. And then I teach a little girl who lost her father to stomach cancer. So she's going through grief. And she tells me things that she can't tell other people because I understand what her grief is. Right? So she can't really talk to her teachers about how she's feeling because they don't understand if they've not lost somebody. So she shares things with me and tells me how she talks to her dad. And so all of these things have put me at peace with the passing of so many people close to me. And I don't look at death the same way that I did before. I used to be afraid to die, not knowing what was on the other side, right? Well, now I know what's on the other side to a certain degree, right? So I'm not as scared anymore. And anything else that I can do to help people, I'm going to. For example, it took me a little over 5 years before I could do anything with my daughter's stuff. We boxed it all up. We brought it here with us to Tucson, and we had it in a storage unit for a little over 5 years. But then I did it. Think about people that may want something of hers or need something of hers. It's just sitting there going to rot if you don't do something with it. And that's not what she would want with her stuff. It's just stuff. It's not her, right? Her stuff is not going to bring her back. I donated them to a organization that gives free clothes to foster children. So the foster children can come in and pick out clothes and shoes, and all of her toys went there as well because they can pick out toys. And I thought, wow, what a great way to take a little bit of Bonnie Sue's love and be able to wrap it around every child that comes through the door. that picks out her clothes. And the other organization I donated to include all of her prom dresses, was an organization that's local here in Tucson that lets school children come in private. No one else has to know, and they can pick out clothes for free and take them home. So, there's a lot of low income families that can't afford clothes, nice clothes, or prom dresses. Those are very expensive. So, that's another way for Bonnie Sue's love to be wrapped around children.
Well, maybe we should amend the title to Living with Grief, but Seeing and Creating Beauty, because it seems like you are creating beauty or spreading beauty and love.
Yes. Bonnie Sue's love. This is all Bonnie Sue, Jordan, and Robin, right? They are the motivators behind me. They're the ones that keep pushing me.
Is there any advice that you would give to someone who's going through something even minutely similar to your story?
When you experience the loss of a loved one, like a spouse or a child, it is an unbearable experience that changes you for the rest of your life. As I mentioned before, you never look at life the same way again. And grief is different for everybody. There is no timeline. There are no steps to you're going to feel this, then this, then whoever wrote those books, they didn't have a clue. And I don't mean to disrespect anybody, but it's different. Like, you get to grieve how you want, when you want, for as long as you want, right? But there should come a time when you should start accepting the fact that they're not coming back. When you're in the dark hole every day, like I was there for the first year, and you just want to die, that's not healthy. I ended up going to therapy through the VA, and they kind of helped pull me along a little bit to ensure that I did not do anything crazy or stupid. So there is no right or wrong way to grieve, unless you're hurting yourself or you're hurting somebody else. Then you please get help. But I will share with you that every morning when I wake up, for about the first 2 or 3 minutes is probably a good part of my day where I forget that they've passed away. And then when it hits me, I get sad for just a couple seconds, and then I grab grief by the hand and say, "You're not going to get me down today. But I'm going to hold your hand through the whole day, and we're going to make it through." And what I do is when I have a sad thought, like the day she died, and my grandson and my friend Robin, that does not define who they are, who they were. That's just one moment of their life, and every one of us are going to have an end moment. What defines a person is every moment before that. That's who they were, not the day they died, but every day before that. So I have so many wonderful, happy memories with the three of them that I just flip the script. When I start thinking about, oh my gosh, I hate it that this happened or that happened, I think of moments that we had together, and it helps me get through the day. And I get to, beat down grief a little bit more and put grief in its place and tell it to sit there in a chair and don't say anything, that I'm going to be happy today, right? But I will tell you that it's important to talk about your loved one. Like you mentioned earlier, some people don't know how to approach you. They don't know what to say, what to do. It's okay if you say our loved one's name. It's because we love to hear their name, like you said. When someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, tell me about Bonnie Sue," it brings tears of joy to my eyes, because I get to have her be alive just for a short moment of time by recreating those memories that we had, and talk about her, blonde hair and her blue eyes and her beauty for life. And I'm sure you can relate exactly what I'm saying, because it's beautiful to talk about them.
Remember one instance that a musician friend of mine here in Nashville, instead of just saying, "I'm sorry," he said, "I'm sorry. What was Brian like?"
Yes.
Just
Yes.
just because he never got to know him, but he kind of wanted to know who was this person that I was in love with and shared life with. So, well, I thank you so much for, one, sharing your story in the book, which has led to further expanding upon your story here in the podcast. And I want to say thank you to the listeners that are tuning in. If this story inspired you, share it with someone that could use a boost, and subscribe. You can go back to previous episodes and then have the next episode right in your favorite podcasting streaming service. So I end every episode with a little bit of a joyous toast. So until next time, here's to looking up.
Looking up.
Well, that's a wrap on today's episode of the Look Up Mindset Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If the story inspired you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a boost. And remember, look up is always at your fingertips, whenever and wherever you need it. Until next time, here's to looking up.